Question, does he think that an American revolution would be realistic given the country's fractured nature, a lack of centralization of a movement the size of the country, and our addiction to tech? So this is in relation to the topic that we kind of talked about last time and that we can return to, which is yes or no, like, will revolution happen here?
Well,
and why you think so. And this is all the genesis of this is kind of a tweet that you wrote where you laid out all these conditions that you thought the United States had met, that you, as someone who studied revolutions, has observed elsewhere in revolutions.
There's enough it's enough of a mess out there. Between economics and psychological conditions, because, as I've gone forward, I've become more interested in the fact that all of these things are revolution, states, laws, money. It's all psychological. It's all creative, imaginative, psychological work. And I think that there's been enough stress and trauma out there over the past year and 5 years and 10 years. Because as we talked about last time, like I don't think anybody's really recovered from 2008.
Right.
This is one of the things that I think is going on, is that we never recovered from that, not in any real way. And I think in the future, people will recognize that in a way that they don't right now. So, but the question being, like, is there going to be like a revolution? So honestly, these things, I don't want to be flippant when I say, well, these things are very hard to predict. Is there going to be, like, for example, an organized left-wing communist revolution that emerges from the streets and in opposition to Trump and related to Black Lives Matter that will overthrow the government and, and institute a new communist regime? I don't think that's going to happen. Right. That would not be my prediction. And I think that people on the right who try to make, like, for example, Antifa into that boogeyman, into that specter of like a true, like these bunch of like murderous Jacobin anarchists, which is like,
if only. I love the Biden that Trump has created. Yeah.
Right. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah. The version of these things that they sort of proverbially hide under the bed over, but also, like, anarchists and Jacobins are different things. And always, as a student and teacher of revolutions, whenever I hear like these Jacobin anarchists, it's like those are polar opposites. One of them is a small authoritarian committee, and the other is anarchists, which are not small authoritarian committees. But so I don't really feel like that exists too much. What I'm really afraid of, like my real fear, is what I wrote about in the Roman history book, which is, what happens when a basically participatory democracy starts to fall apart, and what is the United States of America really primed for, right? Like, what are the institutions actually set up to become in their next iteration, right? The natural evolution of the United States of America is towards something like fascism, right? Is towards a more fascistic state, because American history is defined by its racial inequalities, and it has been it has been for the majority of its existence an apartheid state with legal segregation, and now it's just this kind of like soft segregation in the post Civil rights world. Mm-hmm. The institutions of government, the amount of power that has grown up around the presidency itself, leads, like, the amount of power that has gone away from the Senate, that has gone away from the House of Representatives, that has been consolidated in the hands of this sort of imperial presidency. All of that is, it's a few clicks to actually the president just does everything and makes all policy, and is kind of an American Caesar type institution. So when I talk about like having a revolutionary event or a revolutionary moment when the election of 2020 comes, which I do still think, I'm still bracing for it in every way imaginable. Those, these right-wing militias, the actual state of the, I don't know what the state of the Republican Party is when it comes to what they're willing to tolerate and what they won't tolerate, and what kinds of lines they will go along with, and how much it will come down and they will turn around and crack down on sort of these the protests that are going on. So my best guess is that it goes really bad in a really sideways way, towards increasing authoritarian right-wing fascism. Mm-hmm. The alternative to that being a truly democratic uprising on this that would be something akin to what happened at the end of the Cold War, right? Like in East Germany or in Poland or in Hungary or in Czechoslovakia, where you did have a bunch of people who were just so fed up. Like they were fed up with what had been going on. And so there was, I would say, a popular democratic uprising that was not armed, because I don't really see a way forward currently, at least in 2020, for like a really armed uprising. Like, I don't think the SRs are out there. I don't think that like armed Bolshevik brigades, or I don't think Che Guevara or Fidel Castro are waiting in the wings and are about to stage like a military, like a true military revolution. I think that it would be nonviolent. I think it would be passive, and I think it would be democratic. But it would involve the complete turning out of all the people who are fed up with what has gone on for the last 10, 20 years. Because and this is, you know, people do look at me skeptically about this, which I believe in it more than other people do, simply because I don't think that this is just about Trump, and I don't think it's just about COVID, and I don't think because I mean, Black Lives Matter is not just about some recent stuff that has happened, right? This is about 300 years of history coming to a head when it comes to Black Lives Matter. When it comes to getting everybody involved, I think this stuff goes on for years, you know, and I think that it could very well explode if Trump and the Republicans try to steal the election, mm-hmm. which would be the trigger point for that.